With no solution in sight and in the face of the current economic situation, Nigerians may have to pay more to keep airline operations afloat. Arise business correspondent Oyin Sunday takes a look at the challenges bedeviling Nigeria's aviation sector.
While the COVID pandemic dealt Nigeria's aviation sector a heavy blow, it cannot serve as an eraser for the crisis that bedeviled the already ailing sector pre-COVID. Post-pandemic, its tale of woes continue, from policy misfires, a silent national carrier, frayed international relations, to the current energy crisis rocking the sector.
The last to quit is always aviation. You want to move refugees and whatever. Every aspect of life affects this sector. And in the third world, like Nigeria, government has not helped matters. Instability in government, lack of proper people, the round pegs in round, in square holes and things like that. And when you take a mechanic to go and oversee an engineering workshop, the job of a mechanic and an engineer differs.
At the peak of the energy crisis, airline operators feared that most airlines might close shop owing to their inability to sustain operations. The aviation sector is no stranger to bailouts from the federal government, but this time liquidity was needed in a different form: aviation fuel, the license to import, and the immediate availability of jet fuel.
I think that was just a misguided attempt by the industry. You can't import fuel more efficiently than the cartels that control that business. So if you think you're going to get a license and get the product cheap from the same people like distributing the products in this economy are the ones producing that in the other economy. So unless we actually solve the problem within our own economy, there is no real benefit to an oil import license for the airline industry.
While the product is available for the right price, which has doubled, petroleum marketers do not deem airline operators credit-worthy for supply to keep business running and air tickets low. The passengers are at the receiving end, paying more for less.
Aviation fuel in Nigeria over the last 30 years or so, the airlines have been shouting that it is the highest out of all the hydrocarbons. In the rest of the world, it is the cheapest because aviation consumes more. Imagine a flight Lagos-Abuja, 4,000 liters on 1 hour flight. How many cars would that fill? 4,000 liters. So we consume volume, and any business that drives volume, price goes down. But here, we drive volume, price goes up. All indices of economics doesn't work in Nigeria.
Well, when you add all these factors, cost of capital, cost of debt, cost of operations, cost of materials to fund your operations, the cost of labor, the revenue, the income of your customers, obviously you can't make any money. You're already operating in a low margin business, and in that low margin business, the profit level is maybe 5, if you look globally, 5 to 10%. Meanwhile, your costs, you're talking about 9 times the cost of this, 900% of that, 700% of the other. So obviously the numbers are going to turn out negative, and that's the result. And nobody is going to lend money to a perpetual borrower who is unable to pay.
For airline operators, the impact is more. Aero contractors joined the list of airline operators to shut down operations, although it says it's a temporary measure for maintenance. Recently, Dana Air suspended operations to undergo full operational audit, but a release from the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority says otherwise. The decision followed an audit which revealed that Dana Airline is no longer in a position to meet its financial obligations.
Challenge remains that it's a very high capital demand area with extremely high costs associated with the operations. And the market is such that the availability of capital is not at par with what we have in many other countries of the world. If you look at countries in Europe or America, you have single-digit interest rates. Here we have multi-digit at the end of the multi-digits range. And so if you look at that cost of operation, which is the source from which the airline gets its capital to operate, it's extremely high. Think about it. In the US now, you can get 2 to 3% interest In Nigeria, you're over 20%, 18 to 20%. So you're paying close to 10 times higher cost of capital, which is the money you need to operate.
With no solution in sight and in the face of the current economic situation, Nigerians may have to pay more to keep airline operations afloat. Oni Sunday, Arise News.
All right, to discuss the crisis in the aviation sector, we're joined by Tayo Ojuri, an aviation expert. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me start by that last point made by our correspondent there on Sunday. What really will it take to, make sure that the aviation sector does not go under completely? Is it, travelers paying more? Will it solve the problem? Or what exactly is at the core of the aviation sector's crisis?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't think aviation sector will go under because we're in 2022. We see the need for aviation is the fastest, safest, and the most efficient form of transportation. And with the peculiarities of the Nigerian travel road network, the multimodal means of transportation, aviation is still the #1 means of transportation in Nigeria. So to ensure sustainability, what we're going to see is, looking at data over the last 15, 20 years, we've seen that it's a cyclical situation, it's a cyclical bust and boom situation. We saw that during the Iran-Iraq war. We saw that when the financial crisis happened in 2008. So what's going to happen is the fuel price across the globe has gone up due to the Russian-Ukraine war. Now, with that energy cost that's over 40% of the operation cost of airlines, it now makes it a bad situation worse for Nigerian domestic operators because we're importing this Jet A1 fuel. So what is the means for sustainability? We cannot peg that price because it's bought, it's liberalized, it's a free market, and those that actually trade in it have to buy dollars, which is scarce at this time. So what they have to do is they have to re-strategize to sustain. It's that they sink or swim, and for them to sink, for them to actually be able to swim at this point, they have to re-strategize. Re-strategize in terms of structural governance of the airlines, ensuring automation to push efficiency, as well as customer service. We've seen lots of airlines, for example, IBOM actually sent out a press release about 2-3 days ago that the passengers are going to experience a delay in their prices. Airpeace just released a press release that the prices are going to go up. So what is going to happen is the price is going to go up, but there's an elasticity of the price of a ticket. With the inflation that's about over 18.7 at the moment, that's going to affect the number of people that can actually buy a ticket. So we're going to see a reduction in the traveling public.
I mean, that brings me to the question, what does this mean for the aviation sector and the passengers? But although the sector is fastest growing, the safest means of transportation, prior to COVID-19, we know the sector had been fraught with a lot of challenges, bad loans, corporate governance issues, structural issues. When you look at Dana suspending or being suspended, you look at aero contractors suspending flights as well. How many of the airlines in Nigeria can actually withstand the sort of tests the authorities have put Dana through and come out, swimming, like you said?
Thank you very much. Actually, that's a question to be answered by the airlines and NCAA. But looking at the press release that was just sent out by the airline operators of Nigeria, all the airlines are going through the same challenge of Jet A1, unable to purchase Jet A1, and the price of Jet A1 at over 800 naira per liter, which is ex-Lagos. So, and it's more actually outside Lagos. So at that cost, if you actually put a touch on the operations and the finances of these airlines, not many of them will be able to sustain or be able to withstand these challenges in the next few months. So what we're actually envisaging and forecasting is we actually see some of these other airlines go down, but it's not going to be the end of aviation in Nigeria. We're actually experiencing applications for new entrants. And what's going to happen, because like I said earlier, with the cyclical boost and boom, what we see over the years is the new airlines that are coming into place are actually getting smaller aircrafts, which are actually fuel efficient. You're actually having automated system. You're actually having lots of things that are actually going to make them sustainable. Corporate governance is being put in place, and economic viabilities have been a core focus for them. So with all this put in place, we're going to see some of the airlines that would stay, they're going to be stronger and actually be able to withstand these challenges.
What you're saying is that the airlines are coming up with more creative ways, to circumvent the challenges they're going through right now. I do recall in talking about the Spring Alliance, there was talk about, the airlines asking that government should give them licenses to bring in jet fuel on their own. Do the airlines have the capacity to bring in jet fuel?
No, like the previous interview personnel said, it's not the core. It's not the core competence of the airline, and I do not subscribe to that idea, because the airlines are still grappling with actually managing the airline operations themselves. So, and looking at comparative analysis of what has been done, Delta 15 years ago, went into buying refineries, and they actually had to sell it 2 years ago because it did not make sense to the company. So it's to focus on and actually have alliances with the Jet A1 operators. What needs to be done? The best international practice is actually to see how much fuel you need for your operations, and based on that, you're able to hedge your fuel intake and uptake, and you're able to ensure that you have a price which will be able to make you sustainable and be able to withstand the challenging times. So hedging your price of fuel actually is a solution. Over and beyond that, what will make the airlines thrive and sustainable after this headwind and the challenging clouds that we're going through is the fact that we need to ensure that the airlines begin more of a strategic, which have started with the Spring Alliance, strategic as well as technical alliances. With this, you actually have lots of openings to foreign direct investment and technical partnership from foreign investors, which will help us with the economics of scale and the foreign exchange, which is very dear and needed for the operations of the airline. Don't forget, the airlines need foreign exchange for every bit of the operations, from the training to the lease to the spare parts purchase. So it's with that model, I believe the airlines will be able to survive.
Ojuri, aviation expert, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on the development in Nigeria's aviation sector. We do appreciate your time.
Yes.